Some truths don't come when we're young. They don't arrive in our 20s or even our 50s. They unfold quietly, like petals on an old flower, slowly, gently, after the age of 70. That's when life starts to speak to us in a different tone, not rushed, not loud, but calm and honest. You see, reaching 70 isn't just about adding more years. It's about finally having enough time, silence, and perspective to notice what truly matters. It's when we start to see the world not just as it is, but as it always was. And maybe, most importantly, as it is for us now. Maybe you felt it too, a moment of stillness when something just clicks. When an old pain makes sense. When a small joy feels bigger than ever. If you've ever had a moment like that, a moment where the world felt both softer and sharper, then this video is for you. Today, I want to share 7 quiet truths that many of us only come to understand later in life. Not because we weren't wise before, but because wisdom has a way of ripening with time. And if any of these truths feel familiar to you, I'd love for you to share them in the comments. Let this be a gentle space for stories, for reflection, and for the wisdom we've all earned with time. Let's begin with perhaps the most humbling truth we learn with age. Health is not promised. It is borrowed, fragile, precious, and fleeting, and every day we're given to wake up without pain, to walk without assistance, or even to prepare a simple meal with our own hands is a quiet miracle. When we're younger, we often treat our health like something permanent, like it's simply there, always will be, and can be taken for granted. We stay up late, we rush through meals, we put off doctor visits because there's always tomorrow. But after 70, something changes. We begin to notice the stiffness in the mornings. The way one missed walk can affect how our joints feel for the rest of the week. The way certain foods sit heavier in our stomach than they used to. And suddenly we understand. The body is not something to ignore. It's something to care for, gently and consistently, not with fear, but with deep respect. I remember talking to a man named Arthur. He was 76 and walked every morning, even if only for 10 minutes. I asked him why he was so faithful to that routine. He smiled and said, "Because if I stop now, I may not be able to start again." That stuck with me. He wasn't walking to look younger. He was walking to stay free. To keep the gift of moving under his own strength just a little longer. You see, after 70, health becomes less about how you look and more about what you're still able to do on your own. Bending down to tie your shoes, reaching the top shelf, getting out of a chair without help. These everyday things, they become victories. Small ones maybe, but meaningful. And here's the thing, protecting your health doesn't mean making huge changes. It's not about becoming a fitness guru or cutting out every indulgence. It's about listening, really listening to your body, noticing when it needs rest, honoring when it needs movement, drinking more water, eating foods that love you back, taking a moment to stretch instead of rushing to the next task. It's about recognizing that every small act of care is a way of saying, I want to keep showing up for this life. So if you're still doing that, if you're still trying, still walking, still choosing a piece of fruit instead of a second slice of cake, you're doing beautifully. And if you're not there yet, that's okay too. Every day is a chance to begin again. Your body may be older, but it's still listening to how you treat it, and it's still willing to meet you halfway. If this truth resonates with you, leave a comment that says "still caring," because that quiet commitment deserves to be honored. And if you're still here with me, there's another truth coming, one that reminds us why our relationships matter far more than anything we own. Here's a truth that often arrives slowly, but hits deep once it does. Time with people will always matter more than time spent on things. When we're younger, it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of possessions. A better car, a nicer house, a bigger television, a newer phone. We measure our success by what we own, what we can show, what we can buy. But after 70, something shifts. We begin to realize that it's not the couch that brought us joy. It was who sat beside us on it. It wasn't the meal that mattered most. It was who we shared it with. We start to notice that the best parts of life have never been made of things. They've always been made of moments, conversations, laughter, hugs that lasted just a few seconds longer than expected. I remember a woman named Della who used to say, "My favorite room in the house is wherever my grandchildren are." She didn't care about the decor, the dishes, or the furniture. What mattered most to her was presence, being with the people who filled her heart. And isn't that true for so many of us? We think back to our happiest memories, and almost none of them are about things. They are about who we were with, what we felt, and how we were loved. The painful part of this truth is that we often don't see it clearly until we've lost someone. When the chair at the dinner table is suddenly empty, when the phone no longer rings at 5 p.m. like it used to. Then we realize we would trade so many things just for one more afternoon, one more story, one more walk. But here's the beauty. If you're reading this, there's still time. There's still time to make the call, to write the letter, to show up even for a few minutes for someone you care about. And if there's someone you've been thinking of lately, someone you haven't reached out to in a while, maybe today is the day. Because in the end, the most valuable thing you can give someone is not money or advice or even help. It's your time. That's what they'll remember. That's what they'll carry. So if this truth speaks to you, leave a comment that says "Still choosing people." And if you feel brave, tag the name of someone you're grateful for today. Because when we remember that people matter most, we begin to live with a kind of richness that no object could ever offer. Now, take a breath, because the next truth is not easy, but it is freeing. It's about something we spend most of our lives resisting until we finally realize how much peace it can bring. It's the truth about letting go. One of the most surprising truths we come to understand with time is this: letting go often feels better than holding on. When we're younger, we grip tightly to so many things: expectations, grudges, roles we think we have to play, and stories about who we should be. We carry them like heavy bags, thinking we need them to survive. We hold on to hurt because we think it gives us strength. We hold on to control because we're afraid of uncertainty. We hold on to people, even when the relationship has quietly broken, because we fear what life will be without them. But something changes after 70. Slowly, gently, we begin to see the truth. That peace isn't found in gripping tighter. It's found in releasing what no longer fits. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing ease over struggle. It means loosening our hands from the things that were once part of us, but no longer need to be. I once met a man named Walter who, at 80, said this to me: "I forgave my brother after 40 years. Not because he apologized, but because I didn't want to carry that bitterness into the last chapter of my life." That's courage. That's wisdom. Because the weight of resentment, of what should have been, of what never happened, it all takes up space where peace could live. And when we let it go, we make room for something better: lightness, acceptance, stillness. This truth can feel uncomfortable. Letting go sometimes means grieving. Sometimes it means acknowledging that the season for something or someone has passed. But after the grief, there is freedom. A freedom that says, "I don't need to fight with the past anymore. I'm here now, and that's enough." So, if you're still holding on to something, a regret, a mistake, an old wound, maybe today is the day you take a deep breath and say it's okay to set this down. Not for them, but for you, for your heart, for your health, for your future. And if this speaks to you, I invite you to leave a comment that says "letting go." You never know who else might need the courage to do the same. And if you're still watching, thank you for sharing this moment. Our next truth is about something that's often misunderstood: slowing down. But what if going slower is exactly what your soul has been asking for? We live in a world that praises speed, fast results, quick answers, instant everything, and for most of our lives, we try to keep up. We rush from place to place, job to job, task to task, often without stopping to ask why. But after 70, something begins to shift, not just in our bodies, but in our perspective. We start to see that slowing down isn't weakness, it's wisdom, it's a choice, and it's one of the most underrated freedoms of getting older. Because when you slow down, you notice things. You notice how the light changes in your living room at 3 p.m. You notice the taste of your tea instead of just drinking it out of habit. You hear the birds outside your window, not just as background noise, but as part of your day. And most importantly, you notice yourself. your feelings, your thoughts, your breath. I met a woman named Eileen once, 79 years old. She told me she used to rush through everything, even her grief. After her husband passed, she filled every day with errands and noise, just to avoid the stillness. But eventually, her body told her it was time to pause. Now, she said, I move like a river, not a storm. That stayed with me, because slowing down gives us space to feel, to heal, to reflect. It's where wisdom begins to rise to the surface, like still water revealing the sky. Our culture often makes slowing down feel like falling behind. But here's the truth. When you move slowly, you move deliberately. You choose what matters, you waste less, you stress less, and you savor more. That's not weakness, that's mastery. So if you've found yourself walking slower, speaking more thoughtfully, taking more breaks, don't apologize for that. Celebrate it. You've earned the right to move at your own pace. Your worth doesn't decrease just because your steps are quieter. In fact, sometimes it's in the quiet that we finally hear what matters most. If this truth resonates with you, leave a comment that says "still steady." Let's remind each other that slow isn't stuck, it's sacred. And speaking of what's sacred, the next truth is one of the most beautiful gifts aging brings. The way joy begins to show up in the simplest places. Here's something you may have already felt in your bones. Joy changes as we grow older. It becomes quieter, simpler, but also deeper. When we're young, joy often comes from big moments. The promotion, the wedding, the vacation, the celebration. And those moments are beautiful, no doubt, but they are spaced far apart, and we often rush through them, always looking toward the next. After 70, though, something remarkable happens. We begin to find joy in the ordinary, in the familiar, in the overlooked. A warm cup of coffee enjoyed slowly at the kitchen table. The way sunlight stretches across the wall in the morning. The sound of a loved one's voice calling your name. The softness of clean sheets. The smell of soup on the stove. I remember a man named Henry, a quiet soul who once said to me, "My favorite part of the day is when the neighbor's dog runs across my yard." That's it. Not a trip to Europe, not a bucket list item, just a dog in motion, reminding him that life was still happening all around him. That joy didn't need to be earned, it only needed to be noticed. And that's what aging teaches us, isn't it? That joy doesn't demand more, it just asks us to be present, to pay attention, to feel the breeze on our face and say, "I'm still here, and this moment is good." Simple joys don't shout, they whisper. And those whispers can fill your heart more than any applause ever did. So if you've found yourself smiling more at small things, a bird at the feeder, the smell of rain, the rhythm of a favorite old song, know this, you're not missing out. You're tuning in. That kind of joy can't be bought. It can't be forced. It only comes to those who've lived enough to notice it. And if this part made you think of something small that brings you big joy, share it in the comments with the words, "My simple joy is." I promise you, reading each other's joys will be a blessing to this whole community. Now, let's take a gentle breath together, because the next truth is tender, but vital. It's about loneliness, and the hope that still exists within it. Let's talk about something many people feel, but few dare to say out loud: loneliness. The truth is, as we get older, loneliness can become more real, more present. Friends move away, loved ones pass on, families get busy, the house grows quieter, the phone rings less, and sometimes, even when we're surrounded by people, we still feel alone. There's a quiet ache that can come with that kind of silence, a sense of invisibility, like the world is moving on without you. And if you've ever felt that, even just for a moment, I want you to know, you're not weak. You're not broken. You're human. Loneliness doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means something right is missing. Connection. But here's the second part of this truth, the part that brings hope. Connection is always possible, even now, even today, even from the smallest step. It might be a short phone call to someone you haven't spoken to in years, a note sent to a grandchild, even if they rarely write back, a wave to the neighbor watering their lawn, joining a community center class, or just striking up a conversation with someone at the store. These moments may feel small, even awkward at first, but they carry more power than we realize. I once met a woman named June, 81, who started leaving a chair out on her front porch every afternoon, not for sitting, but as a sign. "It says I'm still here," she told me, "and if anyone wants to talk, I'm ready." Within a month, neighbors she'd never spoken to were stopping by just to say hello. That's the beauty of connection. It doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes we have to open the door first. If you're feeling lonely, please don't think it's too late to build new relationships. Some of the richest connections happen later in life, when the masks are off and the heart is finally honest. And if you're someone who's already found your people, who still laughs over coffee with a friend or talks to your sister every Tuesday, hold on to them tightly. Those bonds are lifelines. If this truth speaks to your heart, I invite you to comment, "Still reaching out." And maybe send this video to someone you've been thinking about. You never know how much that little gesture could mean. Now, as we approach the final truth, let's take a moment to reflect on something powerful. That even now, even after 70, you are still growing. We often think of growth as something that happens when we're young. Inches on a wall chart, milestones in school, first jobs, first loves, first homes. But here's something we don't hear enough. Growth doesn't stop with age. It changes, it deepens, and sometimes it becomes more meaningful than ever. After 70, growth no longer looks like getting ahead, it looks like getting real, with yourself, with others, with life. You may not run faster or lift heavier or learn a dozen new things a day, but you are still growing in patience, in perspective, in peace. You're learning how to rest without guilt, how to forgive without conditions, how to love without needing to be right. I once met a gentleman named Leo, 86 years old, soft-spoken, thoughtful. I asked him what he was still learning, and he said, "I'm learning how to listen better. My wife always said I heard her, but I didn't always listen." That moment struck me. At 86, he wasn't done learning, he was just beginning to listen. Really listen, with presence, with care. And isn't that a kind of growth more powerful than any degree or promotion? You see, deep growth happens in silence, in stillness, in those late-night moments when we're alone with our thoughts, in the kindness we choose to offer even when no one's watching, in the wisdom we pass down without needing to be the loudest voice in the room. So if you've ever said, "I'm too old to change," let me gently remind you, you are still alive. That means you are still becoming, still unfolding, still blooming, not taller, not faster, but deeper. If this final truth resonates with you, I hope you'll comment below with the words, "Still growing." Not because you need to prove anything to anyone, but because you deserve to remind yourself that your journey is not over, it's evolving, and we are honored to walk this path with you. Now, let's close this conversation the way we began it, with a little honesty and a lot of heart. So now that we've walked through these 7 quiet truths together, I want to leave you with this simple thought. You are not behind. You are not done. You are not forgotten. You are still learning, still loving, still unfolding into the person you were always meant to be, one thoughtful step at a time. And if any of these truths made you nod quietly or maybe even feel a little less alone today, I hope you'll take a moment to share that in the comments below. Which truth spoke to you most? What wisdom would you add from your own experience? Your voice matters here, more than you know. This space was built for you. And if you'd like to keep walking this path of growth, peace, and gentle strength with us, I invite you to subscribe to Wise Old People. We're not chasing trends here, we're chasing truth, the kind that takes a lifetime to earn. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next moment of quiet reflection and real conversation. And if you know someone, a friend, a parent, a neighbor, who would feel seen in this message, share it with them. You never know how far a few kind words can travel. Thank you for spending your precious time here with me. I see you, I appreciate you, and I'll be right here waiting for our next conversation. Until then,